Good evening, Angus.
Evening, Luke. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome to Basement Quality Banter episode 14. What are you sipping on this evening, sir?
I've got a hiker, trekker. It's a West Coast Pilsner. It's the latest Pink Boots collab. So I think from memory they were given a bunch of hops and they could brew whatever beer they wanted with. I think that was the story with this latest Pink Boots.
Yeah, I think it's Yakima Chief. I'm not sure, but every year they do a blend um, of hops, and then they sort of donate it to raise money for the Pink Boots Society, and yeah, people do different things with that different hop blend. I think there was a bit of a delay in getting it here this year, so they didn't actually get it here in time. I think they were trying to aim for International Women's Day, but it didn't make it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
having a Future Magic mango and passion fruit sour, kettle sour, one of the first beers they ever did.
That sounds like a really nice combo of fruits. Passion fruit and
Yeah,
mango.
and it's got a decent sourness to it as well. Um, I find a lot of the sours recently are a bit wishy washy, but yeah, that one's pretty nice. That one was it 4.7, so pretty strong for a sour. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So beer news this week, we have Curly Lewis closing down. The Bondi Brewing outfit closing, owing reported $8 million. And also recently being a victim of arson by accident. Apparently, they were trying to burn down another business, so they've called it quits. So it's another brewery gone.
Wait,
Unfortunately,
what do you mean they're trying to burn down another business? Like,
I,
what-
they got firebombed or something. Apparently, yeah, it was supposed to be yeah, an attack on a neighboring business or something. Yeah, I don't know if that's an insurance deal, but the way it's written, it was actually found that the person who was trying to burn someone else. So yeah, um, yeah, it probably didn't help them, but it is Bond,
no,
so you don't know.
yeah, getting your building burnt down is a bit of a showstopper.
Yeah, yeah, probably doesn't. Yeah, help you get back. Um, the Queensland Hotels Association had their night of nights this week. Huge celebration at the entertainment centre, exhibition centre. Sorry, um, but I really feel like they're out of touch, and they probably have too much swing with the state government legislation affecting brewery licenses, artisan licensing, takeaways, detached bottle shops. That's why in Queensland you can only have three detached bottle shops under 180 metres squared, and then a bigger one on site. Unlike other states where you can actually have a bottle shop license, it's the Queensland Hotels Association that really pushed that. And if you wanted an idea of the sort of people they had there, Pauline Hanson was their guest. So um, it probably paints a picture of their sort of backwards way of thinking. They look after, accommodation hotels as well, but yeah, I think I think they're a bit dated. That association with a bit too much power. Stone and Wood barrel aged stone ceramic crocks have been released this week. It's last year's stone beer that's been aged for 12 months in whiskey barrels this time, $35 for a bottle. Advertised as the last edition, the last time they're doing it. So I just think that
Uh,
puts another nail in the Stone and Wood coffin because that's something that people look to have every year. I know I did. Um,
yeah, yeah, me too.
yeah, so I've got a couple of the Crocs still, but that's really disappointing. I know they've got a new Stone and Wood Radler coming up soon, which the market's been really calling for one. If I hope they deliver it really well, but I just think the brand's lost the relevance it used to have. To be honest,
Yeah, I don't think I can't remember the last time that I haven't had stone and wood that's not been in a pub,
yeah.
like big normie pub. I can't think of the last apart from the annual stone beers, which my younger brother and I got into a habit of having those.
Mm.
But besides, that's probably the two stone and wood beers that I've drunk.
The big hinterland pale that they did a bit over a year ago, it ended up being beer of the year last year at the Avers. It was a cracking pale. It was one of the best beers they've ever done. But and it's still for sale now, but it just I don't know they I just think the brand's lost something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me being picky. You had a
Jaded old man.
yeah, isn't that what podcasts are about? Just sharing our jadedness, isn't that? We can just share our jadedness and with all our copious amounts of listeners. You had Pedal and Pint Trail from WA that sounded really cool.
Yeah, it does sound pretty cool. So, yeah, they've just announced an old railway trail. So, 41-kilometer loop along this old Eastern Railway, and it travels through a bunch of like old settlements, and get the feeling there's kind of you can go into the settlements and get a get a story on the settlements, and but more importantly for us, there's a bunch of taverns along the railway that used to be in business for the railway men. So those taverns are open and selling beer, so you can do a 41-kilometer bike ride and have a few beers.
Yeah, sweet.
And I was thinking that'd be cool if some of the West Australian, like the West Australian brews that have been around for a while, brewed up some of their old beer styles. Like, kind of resurrected some beers from around the time that the taverns would have been operating. I thought that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, really dive in on that historic. Yeah, yeah. No, it sounds like a great thing, and I found something similar in not really beer talk, but in the Black Forest, there's a Schnapps hike, and you pay 150 euros, and you get a glass. Comes out of a little vending machine, and then you top it up at all these barrels along the hiking route, and you can just have schnapps all the way along. Uh, there's
Sweet.
not anyone there policing it or anything, and it doesn't say you just have one. I don't think it would work too well for Australians who aren't used to um, having that much alcohol for not much money. But yeah, it could be an interesting. I just think the 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 insurance that these places must have, though, public liability insurance would be a bit scary.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you got to sign a waiver on the way in.
Yeah, you never get anything like that running up here. Um, you had a spice bag.
Yeah, so for anyone who's have been out in the beers in Ireland, there's a very similar to the Australian kebab. There's a this Irish spice bag, and you get a bag full of fried chicken or whatever, and yeah, like rip the bag open and add curry sauce through it and eat it. Like the kebab, just excellent late night snackies. So apparently, Archive are doing their version of the Irish spice bag. So you get fried chicken. I think it was what's the other one? So I just jump over to my browser.
Good way to fill
Fried
the
chicken,
the
squid,
drinks. Yeah.
fried chicken or squid.
Yep.
Same thing. So instead of in a brown paper bag, you can add curry sauce to it. So I'll be hitting Archive for one of them. I had a few good nights in Belfast,
Yep. Finish
slamming
with the spice bag.
some spice bags. Very good stuff.
You had that the Brewers Association of Australia has announced a new CEO.
Yeah, when you were talking about the Queensland Hotel Association's night,
Mm.
I was kind of thinking I get the feeling it ties in a little bit. Um, so this lady Amanda Watson began a working life in hospitality and running a small business in the hospitality industry, and then was a business advocate for, and then moved into the Commonwealth government. So on the surface, it seems like a really good blend of life skills and experience that would really suit that role. And she got fully endorsed by the managing director of Lion Australia. So I'm not sure if any of the roles have ever been that independent, but I'm not sure how independent that is from the big boys. So I don't know. I can't get the feeling it'll be business as usual for the big boys.
Yeah. Well, Brewers
continuing that
Association,
focus on relationships and
yeah, the Brewers Association membership is Lion, Asahi, or Kirin, Asahi, and Coopers. So that is the Brewers Association. If we're ever going to get a Beer Australia across the board with the government, it has to come via them because they have so much sway. Um, and and it's in the charter that the IBA, none of those, anyone who's a member of the BA can't be a member of the IBA, and vice versa. So I think if anything's ever going to happen, there has to be a work together, um, and use the resources of the big guys, and understand that they're not necessarily the biggest evil. We sort of need them to get Beer Australia across the line. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area. But interesting, maybe the new CEO will give us something like that. That'd be great.
yeah.
Endeavour Group, speaking of another big group, they're looking at getting into commercial real estate for the Olympics coming up in Brisbane. They've put in an application for a 30-story building behind the Morrison Hotel, which they own, which is directly in between the Gabba and South Bank, and in a really dense area. So there's not much. There's a great spot for it, to be honest. Um, but I haven't seen. Apparently, they're releasing some stuff this week about final locations of the stadiums for the Olympics. But I think they better start pulling their finger out, because all of it's just been chatting and arguing about locations and costs. If they don't start building stuff last year, I think they're going to be in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, I heard on the radio on the way home from work today that apparently the state and federal governments have finally come to an agreement on funding for new venues. So maybe that was holding things up, but you're right, like there's not much time left.
If they do it cleverly, like they did with Homebush in Sydney, and made that precinct something that could be used after the Olympics, then I can't see why it can't be a success. But bespoke stadiums out in the middle of Whoop Whoop don't work. So, like I said, if they're clever, like even the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast last time, that basically started that huge village that they bought is now student accommodation for Griffith. The tram line got sort of pushed through a bit quicker, which helped everyone get around. So there are
Yep.
benefits, and if they do it cleverly, we could get some good benefits. But I don't know if there's much money in it, you know, or we could be end up like Victoria and pay the fine to cancel, you know, which
Yeah.
they've done with the Commonwealth Games. So I don't think we're in that stage yet, but gee, we've got to pull our finger out.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus on um possibility of a new stadium in Victoria Park.
I think that's still where it is, isn't it?
Oh, that makes sense. Again, it's in a central location. It's quite close to the city. You can walk there. I assume they'll put trams or buses and things in during the actual games themselves. That makes sense to me instead of a stadium out in the suburbs somewhere or
Well, the Eckers got the approval to put in accommodation. Um, they're putting in all accommodation around those Ecker grounds that they're going to, after the games, they're going to rent out as accommodation for so another revenue source for the RNA. But it's also, they've already got plans, they've got room, and they've got a good location, and I'm sure the actual Ecker Oval will be used for some events. So yeah,
that'll be good for the beer awards.
it'd be good for the beer awards. It'd be keen to see if they still use the bin chicken as the mascot. I still reckon it should be.
Chicken, I like it.
Yeah. We saw that Pickles auctioneers have been clearing all the equipment from Brew Boys in Croydon Park, South Australia. Um,
Yeah.
just everything from dishwashers to pumps to tanks to everything. So it's a total clear out. Still keen to learn what happened to that copper brew house from Currumbin Valley. That went up to auction a couple of weeks ago. I hope it stayed in the country. Really cool to see. Maybe some breweries can pick up some extra equipment and and at this time, but it seems a lot of it is not going to sale. It's going straight to liquidation, going straight to the auctioneer. So could be cheaper for breweries to pick up a new pump if they need it, or a second-hand pump, of course, but a bit concerning still. Next up, I had East Coast canning. So a lot of the smaller breweries have East Coast canning come in, and once they've got a few beers ready, they'll actually just bring in their mobile canning unit. And I think Sea Legs has still got a mobile canning unit, and come in and basically run the whole show. So now they've got a printed can option, and I think this is a real massive move in the industry, because previously to produce a printed can, you'd need to submit artwork, get plates done, run test pressings, pay per color. You're talking 3, 4, 5 grand just to get the plates made, and then you have to buy a minimum of a run, which when I was ordering them, it was about 66,000 cans. So I think it was about 13, 14 pallets of cans for a run, and that was 4 colors. Um, so with the legislation changing, like when the 10-cent label came on, when the pregnancy warning came on, you would have to pay for extra colors and those plates to be redone at 4 or 5 grand every time that changed.
Yeah.
And then you think of that per SKU, it just is ridiculous. So then what a lot of breweries do, they just get blank cans and use labels. And labels give you the flexibility, but they're also pretty expensive, and they're also the first thing that runs that that fails on a canning line day. They always get tangled up, or they're not perfectly lined up on the conveyor belt. So this whole idea of printing labels on the cans means that they can order just 2 or 3 layers of cans at a time. They can have as many colors as they want. They can change the information on there. They can do limited releases. They don't have to redo plates or anything like that. So while each individual can costs more, the flexibility that it gives smaller breweries, I just think it's a really cool thing. And the only setback to them is if they're knocked around a bit in the fridge or in an esky, they do peel. But other than that, I think it's the future of craft beer canning on the small scale. I think everyone will go to these printed cans. I think On Print does a lot of breweries as well. Railings, labels, and stickers, they do. I think they're a subsidiary, or they take orders or do designs or something for them. So yeah, I think that's where it's going to be for the smaller operators.
Yeah, it makes complete sense because like you don't have 60,000 cans sitting around taking up space when you're a small brewery. Also, the outlay for 60,000 cans when you're only using 5,000 of them or have many in a run. Yeah, I yeah, makes complete sense.
And if you had 4 or 5 or 6 different beers, that is multiplied.
Yeah,
And then what, every couple of years you change your logo or have to put something else on, or even if the nutrition panels come in, you'd have to redo those plates again. And
yeah.
every time you change a plate, 4 or 5 grand. Um, and then each color costs more too. So if you were something like Coke that just had the same can all the time, yeah, not a problem. But or even a big brewery, like a Great Northern or something, they just yeah. But yeah, not for smaller craft breweries. Um, Also
But that'll
looking
be
at,
good for smaller batches too, like smaller one-off batches or
yeah, yeah,
that sort of thing. If there isn't that cost barrier to doing whatever the hell you want, then more breweries are going to do whatever the hell they want.
yeah, yeah. And according to the people I've spoken to, it's cents more per can than labels. So, and you just go, why wouldn't you? Because labels had minimum buys too. You'd have to get 3 rolls at whatever they are, and yeah. Um, What else have we got? I think we're on to sport now. Did you have any other beer news?
Nope,
Yep.
no.
No. So, did you watch the Reds versus the Irish British Lions?
Oh yeah, what's that?
It was pretty close.
It was predictable.
Yeah,
Look, the Reds had an absolute belter of 20 minutes. First 20 minutes, they were playing out of their skins. Um, but there's only so much you can do being a state team versus combined international test players of four countries.
yeah.
Like, there's only so much you can do. Um, so I was really hoping to keep them below 50, but bloody ref got penalty happy the last 2 or 3 minutes. Just kept giving the Lions penalties. Anyway, they eventually scored.
Yeah.
But yeah, the boys played really. First 20 minutes was absolutely brilliant. First half was pretty good, and the second half, I think they just got tired and ran out of ideas.
Good support though. Huge crowd and people who obviously wanted to see the Lions, but also support the Reds having a crack, I guess. Um, yeah. Well, we'll see how they go against the Wallabies then. Hopefully, the Wallabies do better than the Reds.
Yeah, hopefully, the Lions absolutely pants the Waratahs like 70-0 or something. That would that would please me.
Yeah, yeah. Just to prove that, yeah, it wasn't a fluke. Yeah. F1 Silverstone this week. Really cool. It's going to be a lot of pomp and ceremony about this event because it's the 75th year from where it started at Silverstone. So I think there'll be a lot of things happening around off and on. It's probably going to be one of the biggest events of the year. I think McLaren have to really look at their strategy because if the strategy works for one and it doesn't work for another, they really need to pick a number one driver. Otherwise, it'll go pear shaped or papaya shaped. But again, as we've said the last few weeks, whoever's on pole holds all the cards. Um, Last week, though, was pretty cool. Piastri yelling over the radio that Alpine screwed him over again when they pushed him off the track when he was qualifying. Um, you had Verstappen was taken out from a big shunt that ended his race early, so that was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah,
Uh,
I actually felt a bit sorry for him. It was completely not his fault at all.
yeah.
Whoever punted him just came in way too hot and had no other choice. Yeah, I felt a bit sorry for him.
Italian media are calling it today that Verstappen's signing with Mercedes. Everyone else is scrambling. I don't know if it's just a rumor, but they said the same thing about Daniel Ricciardo, and he basically came out the other day and said, "Yep, not for me. My F1 days are over." When he was giving awards to one of his kart series winners. Um, so that'll be an interesting move. It'll make a lot of other moves happen, I think, if that's the case. Um, and you said that Lance Stroll now has the highest number of Q1 exits in Formula One history.
I think that's what I read today. A bit unfortunate to have that record.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so look, it could be interesting if that move gets approved. George will be looking for a new home, but it also mixes a lot of other drivers up, so that'll be quite interesting if that happens. So I did go and watch the F1 movie. So if you don't want any spoilers, tune out now. I'll come back in a sec. But basically, it was a predictable sports story that could have been for any sport. Um, Age retire former athlete, cocky upstart opponent, big setback, progress montage, love interest, earns the respect, and then wins something that was needed above than the actual competition in the end. Like, I even had the South Park montage music playing in my head while they were doing the montage. you know, Even Rocky had a
Montage.
montage.
Yeah.
because it was so obvious. If anything, they've it, they've dumbed the audience down. They think we're stupid for this movie. Some of the shots were great. It was really cool seeing, Carlos Sainz still in Ferrari colors, and Perez was still there, and they got so many shots during real GPs that was really impressive. Um, you know, it wasn't a bad movie, but it could have been any other sport because we've seen the recipe before. It wasn't an F1 movie; it was a sport comeback movie thing. I explained it to my wife, and she said, "Oh, so it was Cars, the Pixar movie." And apart from having the dopey sidekick, 100%, it was the Cars movie. And then a lot of people have started showing pictures. It was Days of Thunder 2 because that's all exactly the same storyline. Um, uh, yeah, and it was really odd. I went down to Victoria Point because it's the cheapest cinema around, and we love going down there. And it was must have been free movies for the retired or something that day because I had all of these retired people from the aged care centre across the road all in watching the Formula One movie with me. It was quite bizarre,
Nice.
but yeah,
Yeah, I think those.
wait for that one to come
I
on.
think those. Yeah, on streaming. I think those sort of movies where you're heavily invested in the material, they never are ever going to measure up to what you would like to see. Um, so it's similar. There's been like a couple of like computer programming and hacking movies
Yeah,
that are like if you know anything about it, it's just so unbelievable or nothing what real life is like. So, and when you're paying Brad Pitt $45 million or whatever the hell he gets paid, you've the movie's got to pay for itself. So they're not going to be full F1 nerd level details. It's made for the masses.
yeah, yeah. Look, I reckon if you weren't an F1 fan, you probably wouldn't mind it. Um, he does a good job. I don't mind him as an actor, but it was just so predictable, the story, and it was so we've seen that story play out before. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the cocky upstart and then he comes back and respects the old guy at the end, and the old guy doesn't play by the new rules. It was just funny. Um, Gunter Steiner telling he was in it, and you see him on the pit wall when his car gets taken out, which is the Haas that he was looking after at the time, by one of the Apex drivers, which is the fictional team. And Gunter Steiner's like, "Fuck you," and I went, "Yeah, that's the best part of the movie." But we know what Gunter Steiner's like, so yeah. So look, yeah, if you're not an F1 fan, yeah, you might enjoy it, but if you are, wait for it to come onto telly. Yeah. If you like Days of Thunder, it's Days of Thunder 2 or
Yeah, I
Cars.
don't know if you shared a video, but I saw a video on, I think it was Facebook,
Yeah,
where someone had done like a split screen of the F1 movie and Days of Thunder,
yeah.
and there were actual like
Even the
match
same shots.
scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the last one I had was Origin 3 next week, the decider. Good to see our Logan's very own Josh Papalii coming out of representative retirement. Should be a cracking game. I still think New South Wales is better across the park, but I would love Queensland to get up, especially with Josh in the form he's in.
Yeah, I think that first game, he just saw New South Wales strength all across the field. And they just blew our forwards off the park. Um,
Even the way they
so
came
I
out in
think,
the second half in Perth without the
yeah,
penalty.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, the game two they had, I don't know what that was, a bit of a misfire, but if they play anything like game one, I don't think we've got a shot.
no, I agree, but it should be a cracking game, and I like big Josh coming out of representative retirement to have a crack because he just knocked up the Canberra Raiders most caps. scored 2 tries and even a cracker of a conversion for one of them.
You get the conversion, yeah.
That was a good kick. It was a
That's
really
pretty
good kick.
special.
Yeah. So, and then he was into camp 2 days late because that night they just had another bub too. So, yeah, it's all happening for Josh this year.
Yeah,
But
he was on the radio too on the way home in the car, and he said he got rung up. Said, "Do you reckon you got one more game in you, mate?" He's like, "I reckon I got one last one." Really, really quietly spoken,
oh,
humble,
everyone,
but you know he's going to get on the field and just wreck people.
everyone I've ever heard who's run into him, um, not on the field, not getting an injury like you had, he just said he's the nicest, hardworking bloke around. So, um, good to have our own Logan representative there for anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he would have handed out a few Islander related rugby traumas,
I, I still love
which I worked out. Also, if you say the letters, it sounds like
Bert. I got
I'm hurt.
Bert. Nice one, mate. Alrighty. Well, I will catch you next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening, commenting, shit posting on the Basement Quality Banter Facebook group. Some of that stuff's been absolute gold. And stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks. See you later.
Mate.